Hello?
Hello, Alan.
Hey, Chris, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Okay, can you hear me all right?
I can hear you loud and clear.
All right, I'm using this tape-a-call thing that newspaper reporters usually use these days, so feels old school to me.
There you go. I like old school, so.
Yeah. Well, people are asking if, I do the Zoom, and I have done some Zooms for my full-time job, and I like them. But for the interview, I just find that if you're sitting back in your chair, maybe with your feet up or out on your front porch or somewhere, you're going to be a little more relaxed and I might get a better interview. And I'm more concerned about what we talk about than what's on the bookshelf behind us, I guess.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. And really, more than anything, it's just something I've been doing for a long time. And so I enjoy it. So for the folks here that are tuning in, this is Music on the Menu podcast, interview number 14. I've been doing them now for about 3 weeks now during COVID-19. And today on the phone with us is Chris Hludzik. He is a singer, songwriter, guitarist, and bassist. He is from Lackawanna County. He's been playing out live in the local clubs now for 13 years, started back in 2007. Some of his albums include Yours in Rock, Dissonance Meets Harmony, Nervous No More, Live at Duffy's, Rarities and Casualties, and Another Last Stand. And some of the singles that Chris has put out, the more recent ones that we've been playing on the radio show, include Like Ian Hunter and the Nicholson Bridge, Bigger Than Us All. So he's also done lots of engineering work at Sound Investments. So a really busy guy. He's recorded and written a lot of music, put out a lot of records. And I know he's a big listener and fan of the supporter of the radio show on Sunday night that we do. So it's a pleasure to have you on the phone. Thanks for taking some time, Chris.
Thank you for taking the time for me. I have to say, I've always wanted to be interviewed by you on your radio show. So I know this isn't quite the radio show, but I'll take it.
Well, Chris, you come down to the radio show anytime, man. We'll do that. We're going to be back up and running before you know it.
No, and I can't wait for you to be back. I look forward to it on Sunday nights.
Yeah, well, I appreciate, me too.
Yeah.
It's not only, just it's fun, everything about it, going up to see D.C. Taylor and, our show is, everybody's show is a little bit different. Our show, we feature new music almost every week, but we might dust some stuff off that's 10, 15 years old every week as well. Sometimes we do theme shows about a certain topic or guests in, but every week it's a pleasure for me. And so I look forward to getting back onto. I've been talking to the people from Bold Gold and the River just as recently as today, so we're getting closer. We'll be back pretty soon.
Yeah, there's no hurry. Safety is the most important thing right now. So.
Well, the thing about the casino, like I said it on the podcast the other day that I did. I think it was the home one that I did. I have friends that work there. I have friends that work at Mohegan Sun full time down in the entertainment marketing department and the live events and the people that work on Party on the Patio and all that stuff. And so, I'm worried about them. I'll be okay, not doing my radio show for a couple of weeks. But
yeah,
those folks, and all the people who work in the restaurants up there and the dealers and the, the clubs, Bar Louie and Breakers and, just had a couple new businesses open in the food court. So, that's going to be a tough one too, because that's going to be a tough one to figure out how to reopen, because so many people inside, and so that's going to be a challenge. But as soon as they're ready to go, I'll be ready to go, and we might even have some other options. Chris, I've begun every one of these interviews so far, and we're going to talk a lot about music, obviously, and I can't wait to talk to you about music because we do it on Facebook all the time. I like to begin every interview, since we're doing these while I'm off the air and during COVID-19, by just asking everybody how they're doing. And so, how are you doing? How's your family? How's everybody hanging in there on your end of things?
Well, aside from trying not to kill each other every day, we're doing all right. No, but seriously, we're doing okay. I've been a stay-at-home dad actually for the last 2 years. So I'm kind of used to being at home. My wife's kind of having a little bit of a harder time because, she's used to working and she likes her job. She's a massage therapist up at the lodge at Woodlock in Holly, and she loves her job. And, it kills her that she can't go back yet. And unfortunately, it's people like that, that are in the hospitalities industry they're going to be the last ones to open up pretty much. So she's got a little ways to go yet. But, I'm enjoying the time with her and we're all enjoying the time together. But, there are moments that are a little hairy, but you'll have that. But I also have a 5-year-old son, and he's kind of, bouncing off the walls because he wants to go to the park and everything like that. And we're like, buddy, we can't go there yet. We're trying to explain to him, what's going on and everything. And he gets it, but like he's not having it,
Right. Yeah, I mean, the little ones are starting to get frustrated. I mean, my kids the other day, it made me sad, actually. We were out for a bike ride, and we were having a good time. It was Saturday when it was really nice, and we went on a little expedition around the old Rocky Glen Park, and my daughter said, I miss my friends. And that was the first time that she kind of articulated that to me. And so it's getting tough,
It is. Well, that's the one thing that I think I miss the most is, like, maybe as corny as it sounds, like I miss being able to, like, shake people's hands or, give people a hug, you know what I mean? Like, I have seen a couple of my friends, since this has all been going on, but they've been under quarantine and stuff, so they're, and they're not going to work either, so they're, hopefully relatively safe. But it's like, the other night I was hanging out with my friend Brian, and we were on my porch, and we were, standing apart, whatever, having a beer. And at the end of the night, we did the, the elbow bump thing. I guess they call it the Corona bump. And it's like, man, this is weird. This just doesn't feel right. But, trying to be safe and all that. But at the same time, trying to still maintain some kind of, a social life. I'm talking to people online and on phone and everything. And, but, it's not the same as, being in the same room with somebody or, being able to, hang out and do stuff. But we'll get back there eventually. But that's the one thing I'm looking forward to most, just being able to give somebody a hug or a handshake or a high five,
Yeah. I mean, and we're fortunate, too. I mean, people are comparing this to the pandemic of 100 years ago. And I think I was saying this to your buddy Tom Flannery the other day, or maybe it was Wiggy when we were doing a podcast. But, those folks, no radio in the house, no television in the house, no news information coming in. Just the only way to really they could socialize would be to go see someone or write a letter. And so, at least we've got a phone, we've got a computer, we've got a television, we've got a radio. And, and it's not, it's not that bad. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
It's not horrible, but like for someone like me, like, I am kind of like, well, like you said at the beginning of the interview, you said you're old school, and I said, well, I'm old school too. So it's like, I like the interaction with people. Like, I'm horrible with technology. Like, I did a couple of live streams over the past week, and I was using my wife's iPad and, like, figuring out how to use that. And then, I was using it, and I thought it was good, and then it wasn't good, and it was just like, But,
well, we're
all learning this stuff on the fly,
What have you lost, over the past 6 weeks, Chris? I mean, that's one of the things that I'm talking to folks about on this podcast, and we've talked to people from all different walks of life, not just musicians, but promoters and club owners and record store people and producers, and trying to mix it up a little bit and touch base with people from different components of our music community here. Obviously, you've probably lost some shows. You lost some session work, too, at SI. I mean, how hard has this hit you for what you do? I know you said that you mostly stay home and take care of your stay-at-home dad, but, when you do get out there, what has been taken away?
I had a couple shows lined up. Well, being an original musician, I don't have as many gigs as my friends who play covers.
Sure.
But, that kind of makes it almost hurt a little more because the gigs are fewer and further between. And I actually had 2 gigs lined up. And one of them might be postponed in the summer. But, again, with everything up in the air right now, who knows if it'll happen. And I had another one that was just, like, completely lost. But but I was able to kind of make up for it by doing a couple live streams that I did, and you know, hopefully that, you know, got out to some people. But as far as like, you know, other stuff, I mean, you know, I really haven't lost much, I suppose. Like I said, it's more of my friends that are in the cover bands that have really been hit the most by it. You know?
Yeah, well, there's some musicians that play every weekend or every, you know, they do maybe 4 nights a week. You know, I mean, I think Dustin Douglas, who we talked to 2 weeks ago, would be one of those guys. You know, that's his main gig. And but what about your stuff at SI? Have you been, you know, out of? I know Iggy said he hasn't been there since all this started.
Well, I'm associated with the guys at SI because, you know, I go there, I get my stuff mastered there all the time. And I occasionally do go there and record projects, but I actually haven't worked at SI in many years. But
well, the reason I asked the question is because Tom Flannery just told me the other day that you were working with him on the last Shillelagh's record. So I know you don't work there full time anymore, but I know that you still get in there and work on records. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, I love those guys. I love Tom and Wiggy. You know, I learned everything I knew about audio recording from them. So, you know, anytime I have a chance to go in there and, you know, and just talk to them, hang out, and that was actually how the Shillelagh's thing came about. Flannery told me it was last April or May. He's like, yeah, I'm recording a new album at the studio. Why don't you come down and hang out? I was like, yeah, sure. So I came down, hung out, and, you know, then the producer and me, you know, I'm listening to the music and I'm listening to one of the songs. I was like, yeah, man, this song could use a really good like a harmony vocal. And then Flannery looks at me and goes, well, get in there and do one. And I was like, you sure? And he's like, yeah. So, and then I ended up doing backing and harmony vocals on 3 songs on the album.
That's cool. Yeah, so, I mean, I knew that you were associated with that studio, and I know you'd work with everybody there. You know, it's like Lesson 1 going back a long time ago. And, you know, some of the other projects. I don't know if you were an employee there, or if you hung out there, but I knew that you.
I would love to still be an employee there, but unfortunately, you know, Wiggy is, you know, I will say this: Joe Wesley is Sound Investments, and he can run that place blindfolded. He doesn't need me or anyone. And I was fortunate at the time I was there. You know, I was able to be there, and hopefully I contributed something. You know, but like I said, I learned a lot from him. But you know, Wiggy's just amazing, and Tom is too. Tom's great too. But I mean, you know, when you think of SI, you know, you think of Wiggy, and you know, he's the man. You know, I would almost sometimes feel like I was in his way. You know.
Well, you know, I think what Tom said to me the other day was that, you know, he enjoyed your input on the record. So take that as a compliment, because it is.
Yeah.
You know? Are you on speaker?
Yeah. Is that a problem? Well,
it would pick you up a little bit better on this podcast if you weren't, I think.
Okay, here, let me switch. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's all right. I probably should have told you that before.
Sorry, my phone's a little weird. Sometimes it sounds better on speaker, sometimes it sounds better on, you know, phone, but...
Actually, I don't notice any difference at all. So.
Okay.
I just always like to ask. Who were some of your favorite artists that you worked with on the engineering side of things? That's on the subject. We're talking about local music here, so that's
absolutely.
A question I'm curious about.
Sure. Well, I liked a lot of them. I mean, but there were some that I liked, you know, a little more than others because they were really, you know, there would be some bands that would come in and they really weren't as professional and they weren't as nice of people as you would like to think they were. And then there were some people that would come in that you would think maybe wouldn't be so great, and they ended up being like awesome to work with. The very first session that I ever did at SI was for George Wesley.
Oh,
and
man.
He was just such a cool guy. And I'd actually seen him years before on Scranton Cable Access, like late at night. Like I was flipping through the channels and like I saw this guy with dreads and a long beard playing, just ripping it up on the guitar, and I was like, man, who the hell is this guy? And then I walk in the studio the first day I'm there as an intern, and there was that guy, and I was like, whoa, holy crap, it's George Wesley. And he was a real nice guy. And this was when he was recording his When I'm Next to You, I Feel Lucky album. I remember he laid down, it was him and a bass player. And he was being endorsed by Martin Guitars at the time. And he had like a Martin MIDI guitar. And he would like, there were certain switches and stuff on it that would like make backing tracks, like drum tracks and stuff. And he was just originally going to do the album like that, all on the Martin guitar and just with the bassist. And then he ended up saying, you know, I want to add some more guitar. He ended up adding an electric guitar. and then he ended up adding Chris Condell on real drums. Mm-hmm. And I just remember it was like he flew through like 8 or 9 songs in that session, and it was like nothing. And I was like, oh my God!
I've heard about George in the studio, very workmanlike, and just goes for the vibe and gets it.
And everything he played was great. It was like he didn't play a bad note.
I've heard so many people tell me, not that many people, but the people that had that opportunity to work with him in any way, when he passed, we did a story about it for I was writing for the Electric City at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was. That was 2016. And just some great stories of people just sharing them. I should post that story maybe this summer in the anniversary of his passing, because I just love hearing people talk about him. Anybody else that comes to mind? I mean, I think we talked about this when I first met you years ago, that I probably asked you the question that everybody does. Are you related to Jerry? Music guys, Scranton.
No one's ever asked me that, Alan. Come on.
And, I think you said, actually, no, I'm not, but I know him. But I know him because you got to know him through SI, right?
Yes, absolutely. And actually, that was the second session I ever sat in, and it was a session for Jerry. So I was very fortunate. My first couple of sessions were with, like, 2 of the top-tier musicians in northeastern Pennsylvania, so I was very fortunate. But I was actually, a fan of Jerry's. I mean, my parents, who have since passed away, they were obviously fans in the 70s. I mean, they used to tell me stories. They would go and see the Jerry Kelly Band when they used to play around here in, like, 77 before they signed to Epic. Yeah. And so obviously so I grew up with the music of the Boys in Dakota in my house, like all growing up. And as I got older, I started getting into some of the later stuff. And I picked up an album called Last Standing Man. It was released in 1997. And I looked at the back cover, and I'm like, man, it was like the first time I really noticed how an album sounded. And I said, man, this album sounds amazing. Where was this recorded? And I turn it over. It says, recorded at Sound Investment Studios in Scranton by Joe Wiggy Wigleski. I was like, holy crap, this came from here? And that set me off on the path. And then, ironically, it was about maybe a couple years later, I was in my second band, and we recorded an album there. And I think, I don't remember much about, like, the recording of the album, like, as far as us running through the songs, because we just recorded it live, and it was pretty simple stuff. But I just remember asking Wiggy a million questions and telling him, man, I have that Dakota album that you did. It sounds amazing. And I asked him a million questions that day, but he was great to me, and he answered everything. But back to Jerry. Jerry, he was a nice guy, salt of the earth. He thought it was hilarious that we both had the same last name and weren't related. And
it's not that common of a name. I mean, I've known 2 Hludziks in my life, you and Jerry.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. It is weird. I mean, maybe somewhere there's some kind of lineage that we share. I really don't know, but Jerry was always a nice guy to me, and it was very sad when I found that he passed, and I'd heard over the past few years that he wasn't doing too well. Yeah. And it's a shame, but he's got we have a great legacy of his music left behind, and I always tell people the Boys were great, Dakota was a lot of Dakota albums were great. Listen to the Jerry Kelly album, Somebody Else's Dream. That's the best thing that they ever did. Mm-hmm. And I'm not disowning anything else that they did after that, but like that album is fantastic. Production, songwriting, playing, engineering, everything. That album is classic.
And you discovered that because you're way younger than when that stuff was coming out. Obviously, that's before your time, so to speak. So
yes.
You discovered that through your folks having those records around the house.
Yeah.
That's cool. Oh man, so your first 2 times in the studio are with George Wesley and Jerry Hludzik. Chris, that's awesome. It was mind blowing. Like I said, like I was like, I think like the second session I didn't even really do much because I was just like so like awestruck. Yeah. And just watching Jerry work, he was doing a demo for Jerry did a lot of stuff for like publishing companies and stuff like that. Like he would submit songs to Disney and things like that. I think that day he was doing a song for like a proposed Disney show or something, and it was him, and he had a guitarist there, and Eli was playing drums. Eli Hludzik, his son, and like just Jerry was so meticulous about everything. But yet, when you look at the end result, it was like
you couldn't argue with him. Wiggy used to say that like Jerry would put him through the paces, like 18-hour mixing and recording sessions. But at the end, the stuff always sounded good. If it didn't sound good, then you could say, yeah, it was a waste of time. But it was never a waste of time with Jerry. He knew what he was doing. I have a funny story about Jerry. I think I shared this online after Jerry passed. But we were in the studio.
Use some funny stories these days, man. So fire away. Let's hear it.
Yeah, no. But we were in the studio mixing a live album that Dakota recorded at the old Staircase Lounge when they reunited in 2005. And
I was at that show.
They were always around, but I mean, this was the first time Bill Kelly was back with them, so it was like, oh, Dakota's back. It was like the original lineup from
it
was the original lineup from 1980 when the Dakota album came out. And with Eli on drums, but we were mixing the album. We were just listening through, and Jerry stops Wiggy and he goes, "Isolate Kelly's track. He's off." And Wiggy's looking at him like, "What the hell do you mean he's off?" He's like, "How can you tell?" He's like, and Jerry's like, "Isolate his track." And so he isolates Bill Kelly's vocal track, and sure enough, Bill was off, and only ever so slightly though, because Bill could sing his ass off, but. But it was just funny. And then Jerry's like, now isolate my track. And we isolated his track. And, of course, he was perfectly in tune.
I'll tell you, Chris, I was at that show, and it was 2005, you're right. And I had written some stories about Jerry's projects in between, including that Last Standing Man record that you mentioned before from 97. But I'd never seen them. It was before my time pretty much. And so I went up there. I was dating my ex-wife at the time, and we were just starting to date that year. And I said, we got to go to this show. Eddie Apnell opened that show, and he hadn't played in a long time. Mm-hmm. So I was really anxious to see Eddie, because I used to be a huge Mere Mortals fan. And
Jerry produced that album too.
And Jerry produced that album, of course. Mm-hmm. And I remember telling Stephanie, we're still friends. She's the mother of my kids. Mm-hmm. I talk to her every day. I said they were playing Timothy, and I was like, I've got to see this. I've got to see these guys play this song. This is, she said something like, considering what you've been doing for a living for 13 years now, or whatever it was at that point. Yeah, you do. And
nice.
It was like, I felt like I was, seeing something important, and that everybody from this area that has an interest in the music history of this area should have had the opportunity to see. And so that was a great night that night. They sounded so good, and they were having so much fun.
Well, and the funny thing is like, a lot of people from this area, they still remember Jerry Hludzik and Bill Kelly. They still remember Dakota. They still remember the boys, and a lot of people have fond memories of it. So that's what you want as a musician. You want people to remember you. So it's cool that people remember them.
And his night at Genetti's 2 years ago was really well done and well attended, and I was happy for him. Another thing you just reminded me of too, and this will help us move through this conversation. When you saw that record, Last Standing Man, and you flipped it over and you were looking at the back, it kind of reminded me of something. I had that same experience with the Badleys a couple of years earlier. I remember looking at the Diamonds and the Cool CD. I was at the Frackville Mall. A girlfriend at the time used to like to go down to that mall for some reason. She just liked malls. And they had a little kiosk in the middle of the mall where they sold CDs. It wasn't even a record store like a Gallery Sound. It was just like set up in the... And, I'm flipping over that record, and it said like recorded Feelings Grove, Susquehanna Sound, and all this stuff. And I was like, these guys are from here.
Yeah, it's amazing.
They have a CD. Like, how cool is this? Everybody was just doing like tapes at home and cassettes maybe, but like something about having it on a compact disc just made it so professional and official. And then you heard the songs on it, and you're just blown away, and you're like, okay, this is the real deal here. This is happening. That was that was an exciting time, the independent record scene of the 90s, when people just said, I don't need a label, do it myself.
Oh, yeah.
I'll make a great record by myself.
Yeah. Well, that's the one thing that kind of always, amazed me about, this area specifically is like people like almost, expect you to either be like, you really can't be kind of in between. You're either down here or you're up there. You know what I mean? And it's like if you're kind of in between, like you're not just starting out, but you've been around for a while and you're doing some stuff. You're like, whatever. It's like unless you're like on like you're playing the Astrodome down the road. Nobody really considers you a musician. You know what I mean? And that's something I've struggled with a lot. I know a lot of people around here have, but a lot of people just take it for granted that like you don't need to go to like LA or New York to make a record anymore. You could do it, from the comfort of your own home. But there's great studios around here, and you don't need to have, high, big name producers. You can produce stuff yourself, and a lot of the stuff is just as good,
The story that comes to mind with those thoughts is River Songs. I'm sure you've heard of Bob Clearmountain. He's
yes,
the
legendary engineer
and mixer. They put his name on records just because he has so much credibility in the music business. He's worked with everybody, Mellencamp. And so Brett Alexander told me this story. When the Babbies were going to release Angeline's Coming Home as the single from when they were signed to, Polydor, Angeline was already a hit all over Pennsylvania that summer of 95. And they get signed to the label, and the label doesn't change a damn thing on the record. I mean, doesn't remix it, doesn't do the same artwork. I think they changed the sequencing on 2 songs, but that was it. It was basically, they basically said, this record is good to go. This is so good, we're not touching it. Just put it right out. Just reissue the same record 6 months later.
That's great.
But they wanted to get Clearmountain's name on there. So they wanted him to remix Angeline for the first single. And so Brett told me that Bob Clearmountain calls him up at the house one night and says, hey, Brett, this is Bob Clearmountain. Brett knew exactly who he was, obviously. And said, so they want me to remix this single for you guys. He goes, I don't know what to do with it. It sounds fine to me.
That's great. That's great.
And it's like that's a compliment to Brett and to Paul Smith, who did the record. So absolutely, what you're saying, you can do it. That record was done for like $10,000 at a little studio in Harrisburg, and it's one of the best records to ever come out of this.
Some of the best records were made for like next to nothing. Like if I can go off on a little tangent here, as I'm a music historian.
For now, that was what it would cost. You probably do it for less money today, yeah. But
Nazareth recorded their biggest album in like a rundown studio somewhere in England, where like the engineer was like praying over the tape machines that they would keep running, and it became their biggest selling album. So it doesn't take a lot. It's about feeling, and it's about if the songs are good.
Chris, let's turn this back to you for a minute here, and the COVID-19, because we could just talk about bands all day. Maybe we'll get back to it. But have you has being a musician helped you the last 6 weeks or so with dealing with this sort of shelter in place, quarantine?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I mean, you just the ability to pick up your guitar and play songs that you like or write. Have you done any writing?
Well, I haven't really written much. I have stuff that I'm waiting to do whenever this thing is over with, and I can get back together with my one friend, Adam. He co-produced my Liking and Hunter single with me. And we already had some stuff worked out, and we're like, oh yeah, we just got to get together and lay the other stuff down. We didn't get to do that yet, but yeah, I've been picking up my guitar, playing. Like I said, I've been doing a couple of live streams on Facebook, and I know everybody's been, but that's really all we can do right now. And just listening to a lot of music, And
that was one of my questions. That was my next question. Was what have you been listening to? Because I'm curious as to what your answer. You listen to everything, so. Who've been some of your go-to people during this unusual time?
Well, let's see. I've been listening to Nazareth is one of my favorite groups, so I listen to them a lot anyway. Listen to a lot of Nazareth. Butch Walker, who's he's a songwriter, and he's mostly known for his production, but he's got a new album coming out in a couple of days actually. So I've been kind of checking out some of his newer stuff that he's got coming out. Just little bits of everything, man. Like I'm all over the place. Like I'll go through phases where I'll only listen to one band or musician for like a long period of time, and then I won't listen to them again for like another year or something. Mm-hmm. And then I'll kind of sprinkle other stuff in, here and there. But yeah, it's kind of whatever. I've just been listening to whatever I feel like, and I've actually been trying to learn a couple songs that I like off some albums that I like, and just playing the guitar. And
which ones?
Well, it was a Nazareth song actually. I know I'm gonna keep going back to Nazareth. It's only a broken record, but like I guess I am in kind of a phase right now.
You're on a Nazareth kick. It's cool. You're allowed.
Yeah. But they're one of my favorite bands, and they're one of my favorite bands because people around here only know two songs by them: "Love Hurts" and "Hair of the Dog." But they have so many other great songs and albums. But I actually did a song on my live stream a couple nights ago called "Love Leads to Madness" from an album they did in 1982 called "To Excess." And I was just messing around with the guitar, and I was like, "Hey, that's Love Leads to Madness." And I was like, "Okay." So I've been finding solace and stuff like that. Just messing around with the guitar and just listening to music here and there, and going for walks to clear my head every now and again, and stuff like that.
I've been watching documentaries. I've watched a lot of movies too, and kind of rediscovered. I like movies. I'll go for a year without watching a movie, but I enjoy the art of a good film and the writing and looking for things that different directors do. I kind of watch them as a piece of art, not just for entertainment. But with rock and roll, I watched the Linda Ronstadt documentary, which was terrific. I usually kind of gravitate towards songwriters as my favorite artists. Yeah. And she really isn't. She was more of just an incredible vocalist. You could take songs, you just own them. Mm-hmm. And, I realized, I'm an Elvis Presley fan. He didn't write any songs. So, you could be a fan of somebody just for their voice. I mean, that's what most of pop music today are. And that was terrific. Nice lady. I watched the Springsteen on Broadway, which was just beautiful. I mean, there were moments where I was filled with, my eyes were welling up with tears, and there were moments where I was laughing. And I watched the Bob Dylan the documentary from the 75 tour.
The Rolling Thunder Review?
Rolling Thunder Review, which was, there was some stuff in there that was sort of...
I actually want to see that because I'm interested in seeing what Mick Ronson's role in the band was. He played guitar on that tour. And I've heard some interesting stories from Mick Ronson about that tour, so I'd like to see it just for that.
Yeah, there's some, you'll watch it because there's some stuff in there that's pretty interesting about him. Really, really, really great movie. And the quality of the audio on the live vocal tracks is unbelievable. It sounds so good and shot on film because, it was just, done well. So it doesn't have that grainy old look to it. Have you been watching any rock docs?
You know what? No, I haven't actually. And that's basically because my wife's taken over the television since we've been home. But the only thing that I've watched as far as stuff is that's new that's come out, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but I watched that Tiger King documentary.
Oh, I watched it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting to say the least.
I kind of self-committed to it. This was a month ago I watched that, I guess. Everybody's buzzing about it. Okay, I'll watch it. And then you watch one, and then you're kind of stuck. And then how it is on the Netflix. It doesn't even stop. It just keeps rolling into the next.
Yeah, it just keeps on rolling.
So you don't even have an opportunity to stop. But the third one, which is the one everybody was talking about, with the one that she thought she fed her husband to the tigers. I mean, there was one scene in that I laughed harder than I have laughed in probably 3 years. It was where he goes on the screen and basically uses some profanity, which I will not use on my podcast. but basically says, "Hey, it's a ghost from your past. Get me out from underneath the septic tank." I thought it was the funniest thing.
Yeah, it was definitely wild. Well, you know the thing is with me with music documentaries is I do like them, but I'm a person where, like, I really, when I like a band or a musician, like, I really dive in deep, and I either end up knowing most of the stuff before I watch the thing, or I'll see errors that they made, like, oh, they didn't talk about this, or oh, they got this wrong, or they got this date wrong, and it bothers me. So sometimes I avoid them. I know maybe that makes me sound.
I've seen that. I know what you mean. With the
I don't want to sound elitist or anything. I just.
I've said it in books where I've read about it, but I'll tell you one, too, that you really probably would like is the Tom Petty, which is like 4 hours, and the Eagles, which is like 4 hours.
I watched the Eagles one years ago, and honestly, it kind of made me not like them.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, they're a person.
Because all the I love the one part though where Don Henley tells Glenn Johns, "I want you to make my drums sound like Keith Moon." He says, "Well, then play like Keith Moon." Because he only used a couple mics, Glenn Johns. I mean, Glenn Johns was an amazing engineer. As you know, he worked with the Who and the Stones and the Beatles and everybody. But I thought that was so funny. And then Don Henley said he loved working with Bill Szymczyk because he mic'd all his drums. And I'm thinking, really? that's what you liked about him?
That's kind of a self-deprecating comment, that it's I love Henley. I'm a huge fan. The thing that blew my mind about the Tom Petty one, was they go out to L.A. in like 73 or something like that from Florida. And one of the guys, and I think it was pretty unusual at that time, had a pretty good color video camera. And so as they're reflecting back on this cross-country journey where they drive across the country in a van, a young rock band, and their only purpose was to go out and shop their tape to labels and meet with label people, it's on film. I mean, so when they're talking about the drive across the country and the van breaking down at one point or something, they've got video of it. There's video of, like, the van on the side of the road. Long-haired guys in blue jeans standing there. And so it's like a real documentary because it was actually captured on tape at the time. Yeah. So I'd recommend that one.
Oh, I love Tom Petty, so I would definitely check that one out.
Well, I kind of figured our conversation was going to go here. I wanted to talk to you about, COVID-19, how it's affecting you and your shows. And as an original artist, as you said, you didn't do that many, but, you had a couple that you lost.
Yeah.
You did a couple of streams, had to figure out the technical side of that. You get the hang of it now. I'm assuming you'll do a couple more until we're free and able to go back out there. But I kind of had a feeling that our conversation was probably going to, at some point, just spiral into talking about bands we like.
I apologize for that, but
that's what I was expecting.
I don't get to talk shop with a lot of people about my stuff. I'll try to tell my wife, like, this album was recorded like this, and she's like, I don't care. I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
You ever see that movie Diner?
What's it called?
Diner, Barry Levinson movie.
No, I've never seen it.
Classic movie. The guy has all of his albums organized by genre and then alphabetically. So the rock records are here, the jazz records are here, and his wife plays the records one day and doesn't file them properly back.
Boy.
The guy loses his mind.
Oh my God.
So it's kind of just reminded me of that when you said that. But no, really, where did this encyclopedic knowledge of rock and roll come for you? Because I always enjoyed bantering with you on the Music on the Menu page or on my personal page on Facebook. I'll post something about a record, and you'll have a really cool, insightful comment about that record. And I enjoyed that kind of conversation with people.
Well, thank you.
As well. Where does that come from? Where some people just like the band, and I just dig the tunes, and then there's some people that, read all the books about the band and dig in like a lot deeper, and as you said, you get to the point where you're correcting things in documentaries in your mind.
Yeah. Well, I've always loved history, and I've always loved facts. And so when I was a kid, I would go through my dad's records and I would like read the liner notes, and I would, who played what, who did this, who did that, who recorded this, who mixed it. I was always interested in that. To me, like liner notes and album credits, that's history. That's the history of that album or that band at that time, So I've always just naturally soaked that up like a sponge, And I know I'm probably not going to win too many awards by telling people, what studio that song was recorded in or who did it, but, to me it's important. I think that's important to know. And that's why, I looked on the back credits of that Dakota album, and I saw that, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. It was recorded right here in Scranton. That intrigued me. And it kind of set me off on a path. So, that's kind of what it is. I soaked up like a sponge. I've always loved history. I was really good in history at school, and just that's been my thing,
No, I totally know what you're saying, Chris. I remember being on the school bus in 10th grade, and one of the kids, we I don't know if the kids are even allowed to do this today, but we were allowed to bring our boombox on the school bus and blast music on the way to school on the bus.
Nice.
And this was in the mid '80s. And one day I was in 10th grade maybe, and one of the upperclassmen, I think he was like a year or two older than me, he was playing Pyromania. And I remember sitting there thinking, Jesus Christ, listen to those drums. I have never heard drums sound like that.
That was definitely, Mutt Lange. He's another producer. He had a sound, and he got that sound,
And then I get the record, and I'm produced by Mutt Lange. Who is Mutt Lange? He's good, and that was it for me. And then it was like when I always use the analogy when you're a kid and you got a baseball card of your favorite player, and you showed it to your dad. Dad always flips it over and looks at the stats. That's what he wanted. He didn't care about the picture of the guy. He wanted to see the batting average. And I found throughout the rest of my life, starting around that time of Pyromania, I was always seeing who produced this record. So it was, Bob Rock or Eno or Claire Mountain or, any of these guys that made records that I loved the way they sound. I kind of became a fan of them just as much as the artist sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Bruce
because you kind of know what you're getting,
Ron Nevison, Bruce Fahrenberg. I mean, I thought what Bruce Fahrenberg did with Aerosmith, I don't know if Aerosmith has that comeback without Bruce Fahrenberg.
No. That's fantastic. Permanent Vacation is one of my favorite records of theirs.
Yeah. And so, I'm with you on that. And that's a component of music that always interests me. And then as I got older and I started playing in a band and we start recording our own original music when I was in college, multi-track recording and trying to emulate the producers that you liked, and then eventually going down in the studio many times now working with Brett Alexander. But I mean, the first time I did that, when I was there all day and you walk out of there with a song 8 hours later, it's incredible. Yeah. And so that's a part of music that, I know we both enjoy. What about like reading? Do you get some of that knowledge from biographies of musicians?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've read several of them. I've read Butch Walker, who I talked about before. He had one. A lot of really interesting stories about the people that he produced. Miles Davis's autobiography is very interesting if you ever get a chance to read it, because if you've ever heard Miles Davis talk in an interview, that's basically what the book is like. It's like Miles is talking to you, and it's very interesting to hear. I've read several books about Billy Joel because I love Billy Joel. He's one of my favorites. Unfortunately, he's not always painted in the best light. It is what it is. But I've read a lot of books. Yeah, I've read Old God's Almost Dead, which was about the Rolling Stones. That's really interesting to read. I've read a book called When the Levee Breaks. It's about the making of Led Zeppelin 4. So yes, I've read quite
there's a whole book just about that album.
Yeah, it's called When the Levee Breaks, and I think it's like a black and white picture of them. There's like purple on it and some like yellow letters or something. I don't know if it's still in print or not. I got it years ago, but
I got to check that one out because I'd like to.
Yeah.
I mean, if they write a book just about one record like that. I think that would be a pretty cool.
There used to be a series a long time ago, and it was called 33 1/3, and it was just a record about, like, one book. It would be like Steely Dan's Asia, or it would be about, like, you know, whatever. And there was a whole series of them, and I don't know if they still do them anymore, but that was a series that was out popular maybe about, like, 10 or 12 years ago.
Some of the books that I've read, like there was one called Cornflakes with John Lennon, which was by he was a music critic for the Los Angeles Times. Great book. Just took his career as a music journalist and shared some funny anecdotes that he had with some of these artists, you know, maybe not when he was interviewing them, but hanging out, you know, socially, which, you know, he would do occasionally. You know, Elton John says, hey, come on over to my house and listen to my new record for the first time.
Yeah.
You know, stories that he would never have written about maybe in the newspaper at the time, but then years later, he had these cool stories that he shared. But I'll tell you a story about a book I read, which I think you might appreciate. It's called Last Train to Memphis, and it's the definitive biography of Elvis Presley. And there's been so many books written about Elvis, and I've read probably 10 of them. But this one is considered, you know, the Bible. And it talks about when he was in Sun's studio in 55, 54, going down there. And he there's like the drive-by story is that he walked in and he recorded That's All Right. And he hit it out of the park. And it became a regional hit. And then RCA signed him, and that was that. And that's not what happened at all.
No.
He actually recorded, you know, I don't know, 5, 6 songs. Nothing special about any of them. Didn't really go anywhere. One of them he just recorded as like a gift for his mom. But he kept coming back to the studio and hanging around. And, you know, there was this woman who was a secretary, and she worked there, and she thought he was a nice boy, and she thought he was very polite. And so she always looked after him and kind of took care of him. And she would kind of mention his name to Sam Phillips from time to time. Well, maybe Elvis could do that. And she was very, very helpful to him and very nice to him when he would come back around looking for some work in the studio or if there was anything that he could do. And when I went on a tour of Sun Studios, they take you through the upstairs and they show you the vintage instruments and everything. And then you go down the stairs and you walk through the little lobby where that woman was, and they show you the desk, and then you go in the studio where he recorded That's All Right, and where Johnny Cash was, and Roy Orbison, and Jerry Lee Lewis. And everybody was really in a hurry to get into the studio and go see that. And I just stood there I swear I must have stood there for 5-10 minutes in that little reception area where they showed where her desk was and and I thought, this is really where it happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
If she didn't work here and she didn't have that personality and he wasn't a 17, 18-year-old, 19-year-old kid, persistent, coming back around, hanging around. She wasn't nice to him. She, you know, maybe if she was mean, he never comes back because he was a shy kid, you know. Yeah. But maybe she thought he was cute, you know. He was a good-looking kid. Who knows what her motives were? You know? But you know,
but it worked out. Yeah.
Whatever it was, it happened right here, you know. And I enjoyed that part of that tour because I read that book, you know, and that's kind of why I love rock biographies or autobiographies. And I know that you're kind of the same way.
Oh, yeah. Anything I can find out that I haven't known or something, or a new perspective on it, I'm always interested to find it out, you know.
Chris, you were doing your top 10 records on Facebook this week, and you know, some of the influential albums on you, and you know, that had the biggest impact on you. For those that, you know, aren't following you on social media, rattle off a couple of them for us. Tell us.
Sure.
I don't know if you're in through your whole top 10 yet, so you don't have to reveal them all.
Oh, no. Well, you know, Wiggy actually was the one that nominated me for that, and I was like, yeah, you know, and I was busting him because I was like, you didn't put Rough Mix on there by Pete Townsend and Ronnie Lane, so he nominated me, and that was the first one I put up on there. Because that's just it's a fantastic record, and everyone knows who Pete Townsend is, obviously, you know, from The Who, and he had a great solo career. But Ronnie Lane, you know, a lot of people don't know who Ronnie Lane was, but he was the bass player for the Small Faces and the Faces. And he was really the heart of those groups, and he wrote a lot of the songs, and he sang a couple of the songs, and he was really the heart and soul of those groups. And when he left the Faces in '73, they pretty much ended. They went on for a couple of years, but they pretty much were done when Ronnie left. And Ronnie was just a beautiful songwriter, and just very simple songs, but just, man, they hit you. And it's just, you know, it's amazing.
Yeah, I know Rod Stewart still cherishes that time with Ronnie in the Faces. He still talks about it a lot.
Yeah. But that was one of them, Rough Mix by Pete Townsend and Ronnie Lane. Amazing record. Anybody listening, go out and get it because it's great. I listed I'm trying to think, an Ian Hunter album called Welcome to the Club. It's a live album, and it's just, I don't know if you've heard that one, but it's just such a raw recording. Like, the edits are so sloppy, like in between songs, because it was recorded in New York and Los Angeles. And, like, they'll go from one recording, you could hear the tape going to the next song, and, like, you could hear the cuts, and, like, but it's just such a raw album. Like, and I don't think they overdubbed anything or fixed anything. It's just, and it sounds like you're there with them, and it's just such a great performance. And Mick Ronson on guitar, you know, he's on fire on that. And Ian, again, great songwriter, huge inspiration for me.
Did he ever hear your song that you wrote about him? Did you ever try to, like, see if you could get it to his publicist or something? Not for any other reason other than that he would probably be flattered, you know? I
actually sent it to his publishing company when I wrote it. And I sent it with a letter. I said, I don't expect anything. I don't want anything. I'm not trying to do anything. I just wanted to send this to you. And I sent him a bunch of my other CDs too, and I never heard anything back. So I don't know if it got lost in the mail or if they just didn't get it, or if he thought, oh my God, this guy's a creep. He wrote a song about me. I don't know, but I actually did send him a copy of it. Whether he got it or not, I have no idea.
I would try it again. I think he probably didn't get to him, because if it got to him, you may have gotten a little something, you know, an email or something. You know, I think that you should give it another shot, because I think he'd be very flattered by that song. I think that's a really nice tribute you wrote to one of your favorites.
Yeah, you know, I try to, you know, pay homage and, you know, not be too, you know, like, fanboyish about it. I don't know if I succeeded or not, but
it was cool. It was well done. It wasn't that way at all. You know, it wasn't like, you know, gushy. It
wasn't like I was trying to stalk him or anything.
No, just like it was, you know, a homage to, you know, a great songwriter.
Well, it's funny. I mean, the way I came up with that song is I was sitting there trying to write a song one day, and it wasn't happening, and I just kind of threw my hands up, and I was like, I wish I could write like Ian Hunter, and I was like, there it is. And it just came, you know. It was crazy. But
what other top 10?
Yeah, sure. Let's see. I put Cream's first album on there, Fresh Cream, because I mean I love Cream. They're one of my favorite groups. And a lot of people don't rate Cream because they only made like 2 or 3 albums. Yeah, but they're great, and they defined a genre and a sound, and they had so many classic songs. And you know, how could you not, you know, add them in that conversation? But a lot of people are the same way about like Nirvana, because they only made a couple albums. Yeah, but they defined a generation. You really can't discredit that, you know. So that was one that I put on there. What was it? The one I posted today, which was my last one, was Paul McCartney's first album, McCartney. And there's actually a story behind why I really like that album. Not just because the songs are great and because I love Paul McCartney, but Paul recorded that album himself, and he played all the instruments. And that was kind of what inspired me. Like, well, geez, Paul McCartney, he played all the instruments of his album. He wrote all the songs, and he produced it and everything, and he recorded it. And that was another thing that kind of got me off on that path of, like, wanting to do it myself and, you know, wanting to learn how to do it.
I know. He's a pretty good drummer, McCartney, actually.
He was a better drummer than Ringo.
No, that's
terrible. That's terrible. Ringo was a great drummer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's a funny line that I don't think is actually true. When someone said,
Ringo's a great drummer.
Yeah, but the story goes that someone asked John Lennon, is Ringo Starr the best drummer in rock
in the world? And he goes, he's not even the best drummer in the Beatles.
He's not even the best drummer in the Beatles.
That's terrible. Oh my God!
I don't think he actually ever said it. I don't think it's true.
No, Ringo is a lot better than people give him credit for. Because you know what? Because he didn't play all crazy and stuff. Everyone thought, oh, he's too simple. He played just what those songs needed, and he didn't step on anybody. That's a good musician, when you don't step on everybody else in the band.
Dude, I mean, I was just listening to A Day in the Life like yesterday, and that little subtle stuff that he does in the first half of the song, it's just perfect. It's just perfect.
One of my favorite Ringo drum tracks is "You Can't Do That" from the Hard Day's Night album. It slams, and it's just such a good, And then when it goes to "It's because I told you before," he does that kind of like that slam thing, doom doom doom. It's perfect, What else would you what would another drummer play there that would be better than that?
There's been some documentaries about that. Not to get back, and I saw Max Weinberg talking about Ringo.
Yeah,
just idolized him. So yeah, definitely that's a good one. All right, McCartney record's a good one. Aaron Fink's the only guy I know locally that does all that. Aaron does records where he plays everything, even the drums.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can't play is the drums. I always joke with my wife. I was like, if our son grows up to play any instrument, it has to be the drums. It's the only thing I can't do.
Well, anybody, did we go through your top 10 yet? We don't get them all, did we?
No, there's a couple more. I'm trying to think. Well, I put Who by Numbers.
Okay.
Because that's a fantastic album. And again, that's one of those albums that kind of gets overlooked in their career because it came between Quadrophenia and Who Are You?
Yeah.
I honestly think it's one of the best albums there. I mean, lyrically, some of Pete's best stuff.
Yeah.
Goodbye, all you punks. Stay young and stay high. Just hand me my checkbook and I'll crawl off to die. That's a great line. I would kill to write a line like that. So that's one. What are some of the other ones? I should have had my computer up here so I can look. I'm trying to remember, but the other day I put up a letter.
I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about some of your favorite records because I knew that.
Oh no, yeah.
I knew we'd go here, and so
yeah. It's inevitable with me, Alan.
Well, hopefully when this is all over, we'll get together some night. Something just popped up on my, I don't know where it was. It was like the memories of Facebook or something, and it was you and me and Wiggy.
Oh, that was when Wiggy got his Lifetime Achievement Award.
I was at the same time award. Yeah.
At the V Spot a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
That was a great night.
Up at the V Spot. So, hopefully we'll all be back together again, doing, hanging out and having a beer or two and talking rock and roll and what's going on.
Absolutely.
We look forward. And listen, you come down to the radio show too. We'll get you on the air.
Yeah, I would love to.
We won't be able to talk this long about like books about Led
No,
Zeppelin.
I understand. you have to put a leash on me. I know.
But
no, like I said, I don't really get an opportunity to talk shop that much, And that was another thing I liked about going out live too, because I usually see other music fans and people I could talk to about it, So
yeah,
that was another great part, not just about seeing the bands and stuff, but talking to like-minded people,
Well, it might be a while, but I think we'll get there. I'm not going to be one of these people that thinks the world's forever changed, but I think it might be changed for a good, another year or so, maybe. I don't know. We get a vaccine and get everybody feeling 100% comfortable. I don't know about a concert this year.
No, I don't know about that either.
We'll just have to play that one by ear. But Chris, it was great talking to you. I appreciate you taking some time tonight. We'll get this up on the Music on the Menu podcast so that everybody can hear it. It'll either be up later tonight or tomorrow morning. And,
well, it was an honor talking to you, Alan, as always. And thank you for what you do. I know I've told you a million times, but you're literally one of the only people in this area that is an authority on the music scene that actually cares about it and has passion for it, and we appreciate that. We appreciate you playing our stuff every week and doing these interviews and everything. It's really cool that you're doing this during this thing, because you could have just as easily said, you know what, I've been doing this for years, I'm not going to do anything, and taking the next couple months off, and everybody would have been fine with that. But you're still out there doing something, and we really, really appreciate it.
Oh, well, thanks, Chris. I mean, I'm not the only one. There's a bunch of people out there.
I know, but you're
supporting music and playing it.
But you've been there for so long, and like I said, you're one of the first guys that, gave me a chance, and, I'll never forget that, and I'll always appreciate that. So thank you.
Man. Thank you for sending me your music. I appreciate you thinking of me. So we'll get you back on the radio as soon as we can get back on the radio.
Like I said, hopefully sometime by the end of this year, maybe I'll have another song out. I sent you that CD that had the 2 songs on it. That second song's going to be dropping sometime in the summer. I'm going to release it. And then whenever I can get that third song recorded, I'll have that out hopefully in the fall or the winter or something like that. So,
all right, we will look forward to it.
Thank you.
All right, you hang in there. Best to you and your family, and we'll be in touch.
Thanks, Alan. You as well.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, bye.